One of the things that I've been doing differently with my deadlifts is I changed up my stance for my top sets and for most of my warm-ups too, as I'm trying to get comfortable, because I just found that I'm much stronger with this wider stance that I've been using. I haven't been able to use that in right about 2 years, I'd say, because I had some bursitis in my hips, and honestly what it was coming down to is I wasn't mobilizing properly before deadlifting, and I wasn't doing the work necessary, and really couldn't do the work necessary to get my hips healthy, as well as doing too much volume, going too heavy too often, a number of factors. So I brought my stance in on squats, which I found was stronger, and I'm bringing my stance out on deadlifts, which I found is stronger. But I wanted to give you kind of the top view of what it looks like in comparison to what I have done before. Alright, so my old stance that I was using, my toes were pointed out pretty far. See if I can get both of them in the shot here. You can kind of see that. There's an angle there. See if I can focus this a little better. There we go. And there's a pretty decent gap in between my feet and the bar, and both my feet are pointed out pretty good. And this would be right about where I was doing most of my deadlifts. I've ended up moving my heel out and pointing my toes quite a bit straighter to where this is now my stance. And my toes aren't, right against the bar, but when I lift and externally rotate and spread the floor, they're getting right about there. That's about an inch on either side away from the plates. And so it's oh, there's my phone. It's a pretty wide stance, but this stance for me seems to work really well.
So I ended up doing a mini test on this day with these new plates, and I knew recovery was going to be an issue. I had moved this workout up in the week, and so had a little bit less recovery than usual. Had done some extra assistance work for my hamstrings before this workout, and so it went kind of as planned, which was pretty difficult, but ended up using my back almost kind of a conventional pull, but with a sumo stance on this rep here. Really didn't get my quads engaged very well at all. And just got a little bit forward, and when that happens I really have to grind through reps. However, I was happy that I didn't miss the rep, but I'm still working on the stance and going to get this figured out. Should be pulling that faster here in the next few weeks, but we'll probably take a deload, maybe actually for 2 weeks before I really hit my final prep going into the Arnold. So anyways, got some tempo squats on the next day. You'll see here 425 for these sets. And as you'll notice, there's only what looks like 405 on the bar, but those red plates are 55 pounds each, so it's an extra 10 pounds on each side. There's a couple of different angles here. I used a slightly lower bar position than what I had been doing, just basically as I'm getting closer to competition, I'm getting more specific, even in my assistance exercises. And you see that here with the lower bar position. I would not call this high bar tempo whatsoever. It's more of a mid-range tempo, and it's only about an inch off where my low bar position is. Then after that, I did some competition benching, doing a little bit higher reps on this day. It's still a competition form, but I believe doing sets of 5. And then quite a few back off sets. I took a pretty big drop, just because things weren't feeling great on this day. My shoulders really weren't getting in a great position. I wasn't as tight as I would have liked to have been. And so brought the weight back down. I think this is, this looks like 340 for my back off work. And so all in all, weights moved okay, but just a general kind of volume day to end out the week. So this week marks 8 weeks out, and I'm taking somewhat as a deload week. I have some of my warm-ups in here only because there's not a whole lot of work on this day. But did doubles all the way up. Decided to do doubles, which I hate, absolutely hate doubles. But I talked with my coach, Hanny, and we decided that that'd probably be a good transition into the next week. I may also take a really light single as the start of singles progression. I had planned to start that this week, but as I looked at my previous meet preps and how many weeks out from the Arnold I realized I was a little bit ahead of schedule from where I'd like to be. So it worked out well. I needed to deload, and it happened to fit in really well, and even can continue this into next week, though I think I'll probably be good to go. I'll just have to moderate how much sumo volume I do. This was the top set for the day. 635 has to be a PR for deloads, but it was supposed to be at about RPE 7. First rep was definitely no bar speed slowing whatsoever, and just a slight little bit of slowing on that second rep, so I think I hit it on the head there, and that was as expected. 425, which you'll see after this set. This was one of my warm-up sets with 385. Then I did 425, and then I backed off back to 385 for the rest of my sets, doing triples all the way. 425 moved better than any of the weights that I had moved in the previous week. Shoulders started to feel better, did some more mobilization work. Actually ended up using a real small car buffer or a sander, and that just helps get blood flow to the area, and it's a really good mobility tool, and pretty cheap. I think they're like $30 at Home Depot. In any case, wanted to continue on with the 1 John series. You'll see here, "Dear friends, I'm not writing you a new command, but an old one, which you have had since the beginning. This old command is the message, or logos, you have heard. Yet I am writing you a new command. Its truth is seen in him and in you, because the darkness is passing, and the true light is already shining." And what this passage is talking about, as John is going to talk about in the next section, is about living like Jesus. He's just finished saying that in verse 6, that those who claim to be in him must walk as he walked. Those who claim to be on God's side, to be in allegiance with God, must live in certain ways. And the way that is, it looks like how Jesus lived. And that's why this is an old command. The logos, the logic of Jesus and the way of God has never changed. It's the same way that's always been and has been from the beginning. That said, it is in some ways a new command because it's been seen so clearly in the life of Jesus. And that's why John uses this old command, new command. Jesus is a continuation and is in continuity with what God has always been revealed as and what God has always been doing. However, in the person of Jesus, it takes on a new embodied form, and we see what true humanity, when living out humanity's purpose and really destiny, what it actually looks like. And it's clear that that life is a life of obedience to God, and as a life in obedience to God, it is other-focused in love for one's neighbor. And as we see in Jesus, the category of neighbor doesn't just apply to those who you like or those who are in close proximity. It actually applies to everybody, even your enemies. And it's that lifestyle where, out of obedience and love for God, out of the desire to fulfill the purpose to image God, which is humanity's created purpose as explained in Genesis, Jesus shows us what that looks like. And is really a high calling. I'm looking forward to the next section. It goes from this kind of more abstract command-oriented description to a kind of a nitty-gritty, this is what it looks like description. So I'm excited for that passage. But in any case, I hope wherever you're at, you're doing well out there. Blessings.